Hello, everybody. Delighted that you're able to join us this evening. My name is Yen Yao. I'm the Director of Training Programs for the Grierson Trust. Just wanted to say a quick hello because I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Sylvia. We are going to finish promptly at 7 o'clock this evening. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them into the chat. But before we launch in properly, I'm just going to hand over to our Managing Director, Sylvia Banaz. Sylvia, over to you.
Thanks, Yen. Welcome, everyone. We're really delighted that you're interested in hearing more about the Grierson DocLab In Focus editing, unscripted editing scheme, which is run in partnership with Netflix. As Yen said, I'm Sylvia. I'm the Managing Director of Grierson Trust. And for those who are not really familiar with what the Grierson Trust does, essentially we exist to champion and celebrate the very best in documentary. So we run the British Documentary Awards, which takes place in November, but we also run several training and talent development programs, some of which are for brand new talent who are looking to break into docs. And then some programs are more tailored for people who already have a certain skill set where we can provide specific training to open doors for those individuals and really help them succeed in a role that's currently underserved in our industry. So today you'll be hearing from Matt Tegg, who's a post-production manager at Netflix, and also Claire Ferguson, who is the lead trainer for this program, as well as being a brilliant editor herself. So this session is closed captions. Closed captions are available through Zoom. And the session is going to be recorded and uploaded to the Grierson Trust channels. So please, throughout the session, feel free to just pop in your questions into the chat box. Your questions will be answered throughout and towards the end of the session. If there are loads of questions and we don't get through everything, don't worry. We'll take those questions, we'll answer them in writing, and then we'll publish them on our website. So I'm handing back to Yen Yao, who's Grierson Trust's fabulous Director of Training Programs, who's hosting today's Discovery webinar.
Thanks, Sylvia. Hello, everybody. Please forgive me if I'm coughing. I'm one of those people recovering from COVID, and I will try to keep on time and make sure that we run smoothly. So yes, I've been with the Grierson Trust for over 10 years. I look after the 3 training programs which we have. One is for new entrants, our core proposition for 18 to 25-year-olds, people who don't yet know what area they want to work within the industry, but it's all about docs and factual television. And then 3 years ago, we started talking, in fact, more than 3 years ago, we started talking to Netflix, talk about where we have skills and labour shortages. And from that conversation, we have developed 2 training programs which are specialised and focused on specific areas. One in production management, which is live at the moment, and we're going to be interviewing our candidates next week. And then the one that you guys are all interested in, which is editing. And the editing training scheme this year is differentiated from previous years. And the last 2 iterations, this one is an unscripted. So if you're thinking it's going to be about documentaries, I'm afraid you're going to have to rewind, and we're going to be talking about the beauty and the lovely format and genre, which is unscripted. And we're going to delve into that and interrogate why we seeking new editors, what the benefits are of the scheme, and how we as a Grierson Trust working with Netflix can be supporting you. Just a bit in terms of background, my background is that coming into the industry, always worked in skills and talent development, jack of all trades, master of none, and knowledge about unscripted as well as scripted. And I like to think that I've got a very good little black book, which I'm able to use to support all the trainees that we have. In terms of the network of alumni, we've probably now got over 150, between 150, 170 people. So if you're successful in getting through and being selected as one of the up to 8 people this year, you will then later on join that group of people, and you get to support each other, peer-to-peer support and networking opportunities, etc. But before we launch in proper to the actual session, what we like to do is always take a benchmark of just trying to figure out who the people are who are joining us, find a little bit about yourself. We do this through an anonymous means. So if you can, and I don't know how all of you guys are set up, but if you can, on your browser, whether it's going to be on a tablet, desktop or on a laptop today, if you can go to a website called menti.com. So if you look on a chat, my colleagues will hopefully have put that in there. So menti.com. And when you go to that, you'll ask for a code, if you can put that code in there. And then I'm just going to share my screen. Oops. And this is all done anonymously, and this just really helps us to, as I say, take a benchmark, get a sense of the people in the room. So first question to ask you is, what is your current situation? What are you doing in terms of work? And they're the options there. No right or wrong answers, obviously, but if we can ask you to just spend a moment to fill that in for us, and I can tell when people are replying, because there's a little icon at the bottom so we can see the numbers as we go.
I've just tried the code actually, Jan, and the code doesn't seem to be working for a lot of our.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, that's a bit strange, because it is for others then. Just wait, let me just escape and have a look at this. Share the code again. Let's have a look.
Sorry, everyone, that was my mistake. I put an 8 at the end in the chat. I've put the right code in there now.
Oh, okay then. Thanks, Hannah.
Replace the 8 with a 9.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, I think we've got a good sense of the room. Thank you very much. You can continue to complete that. And then geography. Where are you guys based? Okay. Thank you. And then, what are the barriers? What brings you to the Discovery webinar today? Why are you contemplating applying to this scheme? So this is word cloud. You can put as many things as you want and you feel able to share with us. As I said, this is anonymous. This just really helps us, because some of the information that you will provide for us may also help us shape the program in terms of answering questions and looking at things to do to support you as a group. It's good to see experience coming up as the major word that you all are sharing. You certainly will get lots of experience through the week that we will be all together if you're selected, and also through the network. So we have 2 iterations and 2 groups of editors have gone before you. The Grierson Trust with Netflix obviously have a great little black book of contacts and people that we can be connecting you with. So that's all really brilliant. Excellent. This is really, really, really helpful. Okay. I'm just conscious of time. I'm just going to move it over to the next question that I'd like. So I think we've been quite clear in the guidelines that for this, it's not a new entrant scheme. It's not a new entrant graduate scheme. It is for people with experience. So how would you describe your Avid proficiency? Have we got any Yodas amongst you? And you know, you can't be shy in coming forward. This is all anonymous. It's about recognizing and celebrating, in fact, your own skill set. Are you experienced? Okay, I think that's good. That's brilliant in terms of a snapshot. So I'm just going to close that. And there'll be a few more questions that I'm going to ask at the end, but that's enough for now. So thank you very much, everybody. That's really, really helpful. I'm just going to close this down. Great. So minimize that. Lots of things open. Right. So what I'd like to do now is ask our two panelists, guest speakers, to introduce themselves. So Matt, can you go first, and then Claire? And what I'd like you to do is introduce yourself, explain to and introduce, let the guys know on the call what you do, and just a few sentences just about how you got into the industry, so we have a flavour about you know, different routes that people take. So Matt, would you like to go first, please?
Yeah, thanks, Jen. Yeah, so my name's Matt Tegg. I'm one of the post-production managers at Netflix, dealing in kind of like non-fiction content. I've been there about 5 years now. I came from an independent production company called Hat-Trick Productions, who are based up in Camden. I was there probably for around 10 years running their kind of internal post team. I actually started in the industry there. I worked in their IT department when I first started. I was there for about a year, and then I saw all the post equipment, got a real interest in post, and kind of started working with them. And eventually, by the time I left it, we ran our whole facility there. So yeah, that was my unique way into the industry.
Thanks, Matt. Claire.
Hello, everybody. My name's Claire Ferguson. Lovely to meet you all. I am an editor. I'm also a director, and I'm also a tutor. I teach editing at NFTS and the London Film School. My way into the industry was via the BBC. I was working, my first film ever was working on a children's hospital programme in the mid-90s. And I enjoyed that very much, but then I got seduced into fiction, and I then spent the next 10 years working on fiction, feature films. I worked with Terry Gilliam and Mike Leigh, and among many others. And then I was offered quite early on a job editing for Nick Brimfield, and I edited a film which completely changed my life and made me want to do documentaries forever. And I've never looked back. So for the last, making myself sound very old, and I promise you I'm not, but for the last 20 years, I've been cutting documentaries. And that is where I would like to stay.
Yeah, you wouldn't know that Claire's worked with Terry Gilliam and all these other people. It's amazing, really. I think I call her an alien, in fact. So today's session is about demystifying the genre. I think, you know, when we talk about unscripted, it's such a catch-all, and what we want to do is demystify and for people who are going to be applying, just to know to be clear about what we're going to be training people up in, giving them the opportunity to work on those kind of shows. So Matt, in terms of Netflix, and then just more widely in terms of the sector, how would you describe unscripted TV?
Yes, it's a good point. I've been at Netflix about 5 years. It's an American company, so apologies if this doesn't always land. I've been in it for a long time, and I come out with a lot of terms that are a bit Americanized. But in terms of my role as non-fiction, what that actually covers, and it helped describe what unscripted is within Netflix as a business, is it covers documentary feature films, documentary series, and what we're talking about here, unscripted. And that is quite a broad category, and it kind of covers reality shows, entertainment shows, some of our sports franchise shows, dating. So some examples of successes we've had this year, something like At Home with the Furies. We've done things like Love is Blind. We do Drive to Survive with Formula One. We've kind of like replicated that with the kind of the golf and the tennis this year. We do some kind of like large kind of like, we call them shiny floor shows, kind of like quiz entertainment shows. We did one this year, last year with Danny Dyer called Cheat. These all kind of just to give you a flavour of all the different kind of like content types within that broad umbrella. And that's one of the hardest things is to define. Is it could be something from a doc follow-on all the way to kind of like a panel show or a quiz show. So it's a broad term, unscripted TV.
Thanks. And in terms of Netflix working with the Grierson Trust, why have you gone down this route? Why are we pivoting from documentary editing? You know, what are the reasons for having the scheme in your from Netflix point of view?
Yes, I think Netflix as a business, and it's kind of like based in the UK, is we're here as kind of like a content commissioner. We don't, or never really tried to have that kind of broad reach that the BBC have had in terms of like industry engagement. And when I speak to a lot of the editors who may, like Claire, have come through kind of like some BBC schemes at the start of their careers, it's very hard for us to make positive steps towards improving the talent that we as a business rely on to make all of these shows a success. You know, we're trying to find the best people in the industry and elevate our content for the success of Netflix. And it's something that when we go into a market, we would always look to partner with the best people in the market. So when we came into the UK, we'll deal with the biggest production companies, we'll go after the biggest talent, we'll try and bring in the best post vendors. And it's the same with training. And obviously when we come in and we see that expertise already exists with the Grierson Trust, it's someone we would look to partner and help achieve our goals through the kind of success that you guys have had. I was lucky enough to work on the documentary Grierson Trust scheme, which has been a tremendous success, and to see some of the candidates that came through there kind of supercharge their careers and kind of like fireworks going through the industry right now. We're in the unscripted side. Why I've wanted to do it on this side is, as much as I have a broad knowledge of contacts and editors around the industry, you can only kind of network almost within your own industry to find the next best talent. I think I've got to myself as well broaden those horizons and look to where I wouldn't be able to see. And that's where Grierson have been amazing with us in the past, in finding such great talent and bringing it to us, where hopefully we have the shows, we have the structure in place to help make the best of the opportunities for the candidates, and really try and work to make sure we get a really kind of great success from the scheme.
That's great, Matt. And just to signal the success that we've had, one of our trainees from the first iteration has actually been working with Martin Scorsese, for instance. So, you know, she was on the scheme back in 2021, and now to have a credit working on a Martin Scorsese film is pretty impressive. So sorry, I didn't catch that. Oh, okay. I'll just move on to the next. Claire, just want to ask you now some questions. What, you know, given you're curating, we're talking about the shape of the program. You know, we're looking at masterclasses and who the people that we're going to be inviting to participate in terms of passing on their experience and upskilling people. But in terms of candidates, what will make people stand out when they're applying, or, you know, if they get selected for interview, what are you going to be looking for in people to get onto the scheme? What will make them stand out?
So I think the number one thing we're looking for is passion. And eye for story, and an eye for character. I mean, that is, you know, whether you're, you know, whatever stories you're telling, whether it's a more classical documentary, whether it's unscripted, ultimately it's about people and how and human behavior. And so that is, or it doesn't have to be human, but it's about behavior. So it's an eye for that. Organization is the key thing. I'm sort of thinking about the differences if you're coming from a more traditional documentary background into working in unscripted. It's a very fast turnaround. You need to be very, very organized and very on top of what's coming in. And ability to work with a team is a key. Sorry, I didn't. Working with a team is a key factor. You will be working with large teams, which may be different to what you're used to. I'm seeing what some of you, I think 41% are from more sort of traditional documentary backgrounds. It's a very different setup working in unscripted. And I think the other thing, I mean, it's something just personally, what I find very sort of interesting about it is an interest in format. And format that's the key word, and that's what is unique about what we're doing and what is different.
That actually was going to be one of my follow-up question to you, actually, about what the key differences are between editing for unscripted compared to docs. Was there anything more that you can add to that, Claire? Really, I suppose it's about the thing is things about teams, certainly, given that, you know, there's going to be all these different other roles that they're going to be involved with. Do you want to just name check a few of them so people can, if they haven't already, can do some research around that?
Well, I think the first thing is sort of back to format, which is a key thing to think about. I think a more sort of traditional documentary background, or even fiction, of which I've done both. In a documentary, it's very much about finding a story and then making that, shaping and sculpting that story. Whereas when you're working in unscripted or format, the shape is already there. And your skill is almost finding the bits to fit that shape. But somebody else has already done that work for you. It's been planned. It's very kind of it's a different skill. You're sort of looking at your material in a different way to if you were just doing observational documentary or even fiction where you have a script. So again, it's a different way of thinking about your material and about how you use your brain. I always think and I still do edit fiction, in fact, if I'm, you know, it's different sides of your brain you're using. One is about getting the best performances out of your actors, whereas documentary is about finding the best story. And format somehow sort of almost fits between the two, which I think is interesting. In terms of working with teams, much larger teams, you will be working with edit producers, story producers. You will be a team of many editors working on, well, obviously depending on the size of the show, but there could be many of you. You could be working, you know, for quite. I mean, it's a very different turnaround. So if you were doing an observational doc, it would just maybe be you, your director and your producer, whereas this is a much larger team that is much more sort of worked out in terms of everybody's role. So it would be about understanding that. And our course that we do with you, you would be learning how that works and what those relationships are and what is expected of you at each stage of the process.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that we're dealing with juggernauts because these are multi-episodic, long-running shows. So it is about being in for the long haul. Matt, do you want, from your perspective, you know, from Netflix, do you want to? Is there anything else that you want to be adding in terms of when you're going into the edit, talking to production companies and the post houses? When you do meet editors, what is it that makes people really click with the genre? What characteristics would you describe?
Yeah, well, I was going to just say to just to Claire's point, the bigger formats, just to give you ideas. You know, we might on some of like we call them rig shows. You know, like the I'm a celeb, get me up here. We might have 50 or 60 cameras set up, and you've kind of got recorded feeds, and you might be covering several stories at one time. You're trying to make 10, 12 episodes out of it. So there's almost like jigsaw like parts to having these shows built. And these bigger teams are so you can kind of like break that story down into its separate parts for it all to be kind of like brought back together, and kind of trying to keep that coherent across, you know, 20-part kind of reality series is a challenge just in its own right. I think when I've met what we probably say are some of the best editors in our genre, the pace of editing, the amount of people you need to communicate with, the kind of like the understanding of those bigger stories, the best personalities have also got very pronounced soft skills. They're great with people, they're great with communication. You will get notes on your work, you will have, you know, creative input from all kind of sides, and being able to take on board other people's opinions as well as putting forward your own in a kind of a positive manner are the kind of people who respond best when they're in these kind of like large teams, because they are able to get the work done, understand the pressure and the timeliness, but also still see the wood from the tree. So I'd say the best kind of editors, who might be also the people at the last stage of the edits, the people who bring it all together, are probably those harder to nail down kind of experiences, because I think that's something you learn on the job, and you kind of find your way through all of those kind of like social situations and understanding how you translate that into your day-to-day job.
Thanks, Matt. I think it'd be useful just to unpack a little bit, talk about, I suppose, workflow, because noticing what people had said in terms of what their experiences were before coming to this, if they're when they're applying and they're switching from other sectors to consider working in unscripted. Do you want to talk a bit about workflow, just in terms of how the setups are? Because I know that sometimes they're done on shifts, you know, just the fast-paced nature of it, just also the intensity. I suppose it's about making sure that people who are thinking of applying are coming into this with their eyes open, because it isn't like editing for docs that's which we've previously had a track record in, and what people might more traditionally know in terms of having worked on independent films perhaps, or in personal projects. But actually unscripted, total different kettle of fish. Do you want to describe a little bit more about the logistics of working, you know, on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so if I just use for example one of these kind of bigger rig shows, you know, you might have crew in the kind of like 50, 100. You might go out to, for example, a Costa Rica or a Panama. You might shoot for 3 weeks in a jungle making one of these reality shows. You come back, you've probably got near 5,000 hours worth of footage. I'd say what's different from a traditional kind of edit is you can't expect people to kind of just process that incredibly large amount of media. So we would have kind of media management teams that we would work with who record things kind of as they come out of, we call it like a gallery or the rig, all the feeds of all the different cameras. They sync all of those things, they prep them, they prepare the kind of like timelines for the edits. Once everyone's kind of like back from that shoot, they'll start the edit at that point. So in terms of kind of prep work, it's on a much larger scale. But then the kind of the work begins also around logging that material, finding sync and what people have said, understanding where those stories are, starting to build those stories. And it needs to happen at such a quick rate, because you've got such a huge amount of staff, such a huge amount of cost to running these shows, that for every kind of week in the edit, you kind of employ maybe 30, 35 people across the production. So you've got to get those stories in quick. You want to start assembling them, see what you've got, and you want to start showing the commissioning team like Netflix, as you know, within 6 or 7 weeks, some outlines of the early episodes. And then once you're in it, you might have 10 suites for 10 episodes kind of running full time all the time. And you've got to kind of communicate, be around, you've got deadlines to hit, because if you're in an early ep, you can't get finished on the later reps until they're kind of signed off. So it's kind of, the workflow is intense. It's not, it's not live, it's not that kind of process, but it's still a lot of work to get through in, our edits could be 3 months, 4 months, but it's just so much work on the story to get it all in place for the finished product.
That's great. Thanks, Matt. Just two questions to our panel, and then I'm going to be opening out for questions to our audience. So if you haven't already and you have some questions, please put them in the chat, or feel free to ask them in the next section. But Claire, can you give them a few nuggets about things that we will be covering in the training week? So the first thing is the difference. Is that we'll be in person. Netflix are very kindly going to be hosting us in their offices. But do you want to just give the people who are thinking of applying just one or two things of we'll be covering in the training week?
So in your training week, you will there will be many speakers. You'll be that will come and talk to you about. There'll be case studies, such as we might have somebody. Well, in fact, I won't give it away exactly, but there'll be case studies of different shows. The other thing that you will do during the week, which will start on day one, in fact, a few days before, is you will be asked to cut a section of Unscripted. You'll be given a specific brief, you'll be given rushes, and throughout the week, what we try to do is we'll so that you understand the different stages of the process, is each stage will kind of mimic where you are. So you'll do your assembly, your feedback, and so you will be as close to sort of seeing the process from the very beginning to the very end to delivery. So that goes alongside your talks. There will be specific sections on format. There will be different formats to think about. As Matt says, this may cover, you might be 24 hours in A&E, it might be traitors. They're all unscripted, but very different in terms of what they're delivering to an audience. So we will have story producers and edit producers sharing their experiences and what's unique about what they particularly do with you. You will also, a sort of key part of your training week, and Matt touched on this, is that you'll be given feedback sessions. So I think one of the key things to being a good editor is being able to receive feedback and to be able to respond to it. And I think, something that we all, especially when you're working under a lot of pressure, it's an art and it's a skill learning how to do that, and to see it as something that is positive rather than something crushing. So we do that throughout the week. It's one of the key things that we put in. The other thing that we will be talking about is delivery requirements. So you will obviously, you'll be engaged in the creative process, but also the technical process. You will be learning what is expected at each stage, including delivery, and it will take you through to the phase of finishing editor. You won't be doing that, but there'll be a finishing editor that will come and talk to you and talk to you about how it is delivered and what is required specifically of you, because you will be applying to be a junior editor. So you'll be working within a team of people. And I think for me, and we keep going back to communication, the key thing to being a good editor is understanding what everybody in your team needs of you. So if you imagine, I think if you can put yourself in someone else's shoes that isn't you, who you're delivering to, and thinking, what do they need to make this work? What are they asking of me, and why are they asking it? And they're only, in a team, you're only as good as each other. And so that's where the communication is the key thing. And we'll be talking a lot about that. Anything else? Any more nuggets?
No, I think that's quite that's a bucket load of nuggets. I was thinking that you'd only given them a few, but yeah, you've given them lots to think about and hopefully whetted their appetite, and they'll be straining to be applying. Last question to both of you, and then we'll open for questions. So please, everybody, have questions ready for us. Matt and then Claire, what do you guys like watching? What I know the thing is about unscripted and these reality and these kind of shows are sometimes called guilty pleasures, and you know we shouldn't put them in that bucket. But yeah, what kind of shows do you guys watch? Or is Matt? I know that when I talked to Audrey in docs, she said she'd never watches docs actually because it's a day job. But yeah, do you watch any shows? What?
Yeah, I have a weird mix. I like in docs, I actually like kind of like weird, overly complex financial crime documentaries and kind of like fraud and things like that. I don't know why, I just have a weird obsession with it. But in the unscripted world, I think the first thing I ever watched when I started, we get this thing called content preview, which lets you see things that haven't actually released on service but have been delivered into the system. And I remember I did my onboarding in LA, and I watched something at the time that was the first season of what we have is Selling Sunset, because I was in Hollywood, and I watched it, and I binged all the way through it, and I went in and I was like, I want to find the guy who commissioned this. I said, I watched this as the first thing I've ever watched with access to everything, and I really, really loved it. And he was like, really, you think it'll be a big one? I was just like, yeah, I think it will be great. And I think they're about 7 seasons into it now, but yeah, I do like that kind of quite trashy drama.
No, that's great, Claire. And I think you're a late converter, if we're honest, aren't you? What? Go
I'm
on,
not
then.
sure I am. I was thinking about this just when you asked the question. I kind of am a late converter, but then equally I always loved 24 Hours in A&E and still do. One Born Every Minute. For me, the reason why I make documentaries is that immediate. What I love about unscripted is the in the moment human stories, which you can get observationally, but not in the same way. So I think that is where it's unique, and that's what interests me. And I think, you know, the other story that comes to mind was Educating Yorkshire. I think one of the most brilliant unscripted, and I still think about it, and I'd watch it again. I think it's brilliant, and because of the way it touches your heart. So but equally, I must confess, I have been watching Below Deck. I like a bit of guilty pleasure, and just because it's fun. First Dates, and then the kind of more you watch it, the more you kind of the more you watch it, the more you watch it, and I think that's the point. So I kind of, maybe I'm a late converter, but ultimately it's always going to be the in the moment immediacy of human stories that you can't necessarily get in the same way in any other format.
+1 to Below Deck, that week, Claire.
That doesn't count, does it? But then I'm thinking
that does. That is the ultimate format. You know, 8 seasons, 4 different boats, different parts of the world. Perfect. Absolutely love it.
Thanks, guys. That's great. So, audience, who has some questions? Is there anything that we haven't covered? What would you? Oh, they're coming in now. So, first question from Someone Deep. In terms of numbers of credits or years in industry, how long can it take to progress from junior to assistant to offline editing? Matt, that might be one for you.
Yes, I don't think there is a defined kind of like time period for that. I think when I was first in the industry, it was a lot more people needed to be runners, then they needed to work in the machine room. I think we're looking at a world where I think, like Claire says, it's about finding stories, it's about understanding characters. I've seen people work in the industry for 5 years and fly up. I've seen people work in the industry for 15 years and go at a slower pace. I think your passion and your ability will shine through when it comes to making that movement. I think what we're hoping to do is make that as fast as possible by trying to help find the right placements with the right companies that have huge amounts of work and huge amounts of opportunities and make some of the best stuff in the industry. So I'd hope we bring that down, but there's so many people to learn from, and I think you kind of know when you're ready to make that step, because I think you understand where you are in your career and what you're doing for your next role.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Matt, we've got a technical question, then a question for Claire, and this is from Erden. They say, thanks for the great information. It's much appreciated. Thank you, Erden. Matt, is Netflix using cloud-based editing workflow for creative collaboration? And then for Claire, is it a quality sought at applications. I'm not entirely sure what he means by that. Is maybe about knowledge about different workflows and working with the cloud. But Matt, in terms of Netflix, are you using?
I would say we don't necessarily use kind of full cloud-based editing in its kind of entirety in terms of all of the storage, all of the media, all of the accesses in the cloud. We always kind of have what we call a hybrid cloud or private cloud, and that's where storage and edit systems might be based in a post vendor and people can access them remotely, or people might be accessing it from abroad. So we have the flexibility of cloud, but we don't at the moment on any of my shows kind of use something that's only in cloud, because of the large amount of media, it takes a lot of uploading time to upload all these terabytes and things like that. And when you get into the final post and you're doing the grade and the online and the mix, bringing all that media back down and kind of like conforming it back can be a bit of a challenge, especially on these unscripted shows. We've just got so much media. But yeah, due to probably cost and how long it would take to upload it all, we haven't gone kind of like full cloud-based, but we definitely use it in that hybrid workflow to say what you're talking about, where it's creative collaboration. If you had a director in New York and you wanted to edit with someone in London, we do that all the time. So yes, in that respect, we do it for creative purposes.
That's great. Erdin, I think your last question, for your following question for Claire is not clear. So if you want to just repost that, that would be brilliant. But then the other question that we've got now is from Mike Hawkins. He's asking, I was under the impression that unscripted editing is more difficult than scripted editing, regardless of experience. Is that true? Any tips on how to make it easier? Claire, I think that's one for you, given that you've worked in both worlds. Is unscripted more difficult than scripted?
I think that's a difficult question, Mike, about what's more difficult. I think ultimately it comes to storytelling. And I would say it is different parts of your brain that you're using. So it's not that one is more difficult than the other. I mean, I think editing documentary, and I'm talking about the more traditional documentary or sort of feature docs, I think it's very difficult because you are effectively, you're scripting it yourself. Whereas, so you're having to put a lot of that thinking in with your director, whereas unscripted, a lot of that thinking work has been done for you. However, the challenges may be different, such as the challenges in terms of deadlines, in terms of working with very big teams, the challenges of the amount of material that you're having to process. So I'd say the skills are different, but wouldn't necessarily say more or less difficult. I think it's about who you are is probably my best way of answering that.
Thanks, Claire. That's great. One about resources. So this question is from Liam. There's abundance of literary resources. So we're thinking of Blink of the Eye by Walter Murch. Any others that you would recommend in terms of the non-scripted format, if not literary, any online resources you could recommend? Anything that comes to mind? One thing that I think people could, just off the top of my head, Radio 4 did a 10-parter series podcast about the history of reality TV that is still available. We will post that, actually, my colleague Hannah. We've tried to post it in the chat, or else we certainly put it into the resources and the FAQs. We'll add that to the FAQs on the website. That is something that you could be listening to. I found that very enlightening, given the history of it. I can't think. Oh, there you go. There's Hannah in that. But I can't think. Claire, given that your teaching experience, any resources, any books and stuff?
Well, fun enough. There's something that actually I was reading about today that's just come online by John Ellis about fixed rig documentaries, how they do it, which is really good. So I can share that with you. I'm going to share it with Hannah now. But I can't think of a book. I'm trying to think if I can't think of anything. But again, the 12-part series on radio, on BBC Sounds, I listened to that, thought it was very good. I would say just watch loads of telly. That would be, I mean, just watch lots of different stuff and think about story and how, even Bake Off, or, you know, just think about how those stories are constructed, and then the question, which is what is fascinating, is what makes them work? Why do they work so well? Because somebody's gone through and they've thought that through and they've come up with that idea. But ask yourself, what is it about that makes it unique and that makes it work and makes it land for an audience? And I think actually watching a lot of telly is a very good resource.
Thanks, Claire. Matt, one for you. There's this question from Ben. He's saying, is this purely to get into reality, or is this for roles in sports, observational, true crime? Am I too overqualified, currently editing an episode of a popular reality show in the UK? Will this hinder me in applying for this course if I want to move into one of the other sectors? I think I know the question. I know the answer to that, but I'll let you answer that. So Ben, it sounds like he's working in unscripted, but he actually wants to work in docs. Is this a route in?
It's not a route in if that's what you want. We do have other like pathways for docs. I think very much for people in other genres who are looking to get into unscripted. In the industry, it's very easy to just get pigeonholed by the last few jobs you did, and then 5 years down the line, you're still working on, you started in sports or news, and we're hoping to open these pathways to people who are just great editors who want to get into something that they've got that passion for and that kind of content. So we're trying to push for passion for this content, and unscripted as being the key part of it. We do have some observational sports docs, but it's not the majority of the content we make, and probably wouldn't be the majority of any of the placements we might hope to make.
Yeah. This is from Melina, and I'll answer this. It's asking about one of the questions in the application form, and it's when we ask you to tell us what shows you have watched. If it's not clear, and I'll double check this, we do say across all platforms, terrestrial TV, etc. It isn't just about Netflix, given that the examples that the guys have given so far in the webinar, we are talking about anything and everything. So it isn't just about Netflix. So hopefully that is clear, Melina. There's that. And then just looking for more questions. Oh, so Erden, he was saying, my question to Claire was a technical question. As Grierson Trust is looking for candidates with avid MC knowledge and experience, I was wondering if a certification for avid was required.
So Erden, what I would say is you will be expected to be very proficient on the avid in order to do the course. So we won't be providing technical tuition for the avid, so you will already need to know it inside out. So you will already need to know sync maps, grouping, all those fundamentals of the avid. What we will help you with is organization of specific projects and how they might, skills to help you organize large amounts of material in an avid, and people with the experience of different formats will talk to you about that. But you will need to know the avid like the back of your hand, and if you don't know the avid, you will struggle. So I would just really emphasize that.
Yeah.
So it's not just a question of doing a course. I think you need to have a working knowledge of avid. So you need to have used it, and you need to know how to survive a crash. You need to know what to do if something goes wrong. You need to know about what questions to ask, because it's only by doing it that you learn what you don't know. It's not enough just to quickly swat up beforehand.
No, yeah, and we've been quite specific about that in terms of the criteria. Which conscious of that time, just got one last question, and then I'm just going to finish off with one with a poll. So this is for either Matt or Claire. Well, probably Matt actually, because I presume this has been in the context of the scheme. Do you find yourself working with edit houses that might be in different regions, such as Russia's been synced in Manchester and then assembled in London? Matt, do you want to talk a little bit about how you guys work in terms of the post houses?
Yeah, we as a company are not tied to any specific region. We'll take the commissions from wherever they come, and we'll support people wherever they are. In terms of like big shows like this, we did a show called The Circle. We did probably 4 or 5 seasons of that, and that was entirely Manchester based. And we worked with a company called The Farm, who are now called Picture Shop, who are based in Manchester. We've done other shows out of Manchester, and I've done a few shows out of Bristol and one out of Scotland. But other than that, I'll be honest, I haven't done much in any of the other regions. They tend to be kind of like Leeds and Birmingham have done more BBC and Channel 4 stuff, but we the production infrastructure hasn't really been there for these really big shows. But Manchester, yeah, there's definitely some big production companies that and vendors that we work with up there.
That's great. Thank you very much. That's all the time that we've got, basically. For any last minute questions, we'll have to answer those in the FAQs afterwards. So thank you very much. I just want to go back to Menti because, you know, we're just trying to capture how people are feeling. So I'm just going to share the screen again. And if you can just go back to the Menti, oops, on your browser. So just move this here, present. So again, oops, so many things are happening here. So the code again is 4211-6529. Do you feel confident about applying? How's the webinar today? Hearing from Matt, hearing from Claire. How do you feel? Are you confident? Oh, you can't see my screen. Sorry. I don't know what's happening. Oops. Share the screen. Thanks, Claire. No, thanks, Hannah. Okay, great. There you go. Great to see that we've got the majority of the people here who on the screen to say that they are going to hopefully apply. So that's brilliant. I'm just going to stop that. So you can still return to the Menti. Thank you very much, everybody. That's brilliant. I'm just going to stop. I'm just conscious about the time. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody. Any other questions that you've got that you reflected on, haven't had a chance to ask in the chat today, please email us. Our email address is training@griersontrust.org. The application deadline is looming, but please do get in touch if you have any questions. We're here to help and support you. And with that, best of luck, everybody. Thank you very much for your time and joining us this evening, and look forward to receiving your applications. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Claire.
Thanks. Bye.